Live from DBA in Pomona, California, Mark presents the Pay-Per-View Wrestling Podcast featuring Hollywood Matt Avila. We're going to be talking Okada Vs Omega here on the Pay-Per-View Wrestling Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Pay-Per-View Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Mark Flores, and alongside with me is a very good friend of mine. You guys know him from the previous episode, Shooting with Hollywood Matt Avila. Hollywood Matt Avila.
Hey, what's going on, Mark? Thanks for having me back.
Oh, man. I needed you back because I know you would be the go-to to have a varying opinion on this match that we need to talk about, and we need to get out of the way before we dive into the Royal Rumble.
Braun Strowman versus Sami Zayn at Battle. What was the last WWE pay-per-view?
What was it?
Man, I forgot.
It's one of those.
Wasn't Hell in a Cell?
No, it was after that. It was.
Roadblock. Roadblock was the last one.
It's probably it's the reason we don't remember that one is because there was a roadblock that they had earlier in
January.
Yeah.
I think it was February. Yeah.
Roadblock, end of the line.
Yeah, exactly. That's the match we're talking about. For
yeah,
a whole
exactly.
hour straight.
We're going to talk about Mick Foley's interruption with the white towel. The first time a white towel's ever been used in a couple years. No, but we're going to be talking about Okada versus Omega, Wrestle Kingdom
11.
Wrestle Kingdom 11. So I want to thank our Facebook group that is allowing me to share this. It's Pro Wrestling Nation. GeeksGamers.com is letting us putting it up on their page. But Wrestle Kingdom 11, the match that we're going to be talking about is Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega, and this match is catching wildfire because Dave Meltzer on his Twitter and on various social medias decreed that this match is a 6-star match.
Yeah, out of a 5-star rating.
It was one. Is this the only 6-star match, or did he have?
I think he has one other one.
Like one 6-star match from the 1990s that he had.
Something like that. Yeah. But yeah, he doesn't have many 6-star matches, and it's very rare that he gives out a 5-star match.
Yeah.
Rating recently he gave one to a 6-man tag at PWG Battle of Los Angeles Night 2, which was Will Ospreay, Ricochet, and Matt Sydal versus Adam Cole and the Young Bucks.
That match was well deserved of a 5-star rating.
It's pretty cool to know that I was in attendance for a 5-star match.
Wait, you were there?
I was at that event. Yeah,
I didn't see you on the DVD.
So that night I had standing room tickets, so I'm just in the very, very back of the room, like in the corner. You never see that corner, I think, during that match because they don't really work that corner that much. But there's it's at the American Legion Hall 308 or
Reseda.
And I'm like right outside the men's restroom. But it's cool to know that I was in attendance for that. But there are people who were in attendance for a 6-star match in 2017, which is cooler. Yeah,
exactly. But you can't even limit yourself by saying the 5-star match is the upper tier of those matches.
Definitely. But Meltzer I don't think has given 5-star match ratings to American matches in quite a while. And, I think, it's been about 20 years since he gave a 6-star rating.
The last 5-star match he ever gave to WWE was the Money in the Bank 2011 with Cena and CM Punk.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was the last one he's ever given.
That's deserving.
And it is, definitely. But before we dive into Okada versus Omega, let me get the commercials out of the way, and then we'll come back here with the Pay-Per-View Wrestling Podcast. Hello, this is Mark Flores from the Mark F Podcast channel, here to let you know that this podcast episode is brought to you by Game Swappers. Come on down to Game Swappers, located at 4520 Holt Boulevard in Montclair, California, to buy, sell, and trade your current and retro video games from Nintendo Entertainment System to the PS4. Keep in mind that if you share any one of my podcast episodes through any form of social media, you'll get 10% off your entire purchase, or you'll get 10% more towards your retro game trade-ins. Follow Game Swappers on Instagram at GAMESWAPPERS. That's GAMESWAPPERS. Game Swappers. Buy, sell, and trade. All right, perfect. We're back here on the Pay-Per-View Wrestling Podcast. So, Wrestle Kingdom 11, did you end up watching it live, or did you watch it at a later time?
Yeah, I watched it at a later date. It was actually like a couple days after it had happened. Just because I work so early. I probably, if I went to bed early enough, could have just woken up, watched it, and then worked right after. But I decided to not stay up to dive into that. But I watched it the Friday after it had happened. And I just caught it online. So, and I don't know if this is a question you already have, but knowing, because I'm not like a spoiler, excuse me, spoiler, I don't want to know any spoilers, like that guy. So I totally knew the outcome, and it did not harm the enjoyment of the match whatsoever. Because watching it, seeing how I don't know, there's just so much to get into. So
you knew the outcome before you even dived into the match?
Yeah, I knew the outcome before I watched it.
Even with me watching a match or knowing the outcome, I have Bleacher Report on my phone. So I usually get that, or even through any form of social media, you get that as well. But it's like you have to, with the day and age of technology, you have to have that. You have to have that awareness.
Yeah.
And if you do, you're all right. There shouldn't be an issue. I mean, even if it gets spoiled to you, you love wrestling. I love wrestling. It's just, I love the art of the sport. And my first time watching it, even with spoilers, it's going to be new to me anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
What we want to get into about this match is, what did you like about the match? What did you dislike? Because let's just talk about the inner workings of this match before it even started. Is Kenny Omega had the opportunity to face Kazuchika Okada, and this is through what, the G1 tournament?
Yeah, this is through winning the G1 climax. The full name, I believe, is the G1 Climax 25.
Yeah, they have a long name for it.
Because it's 25 participant, or something weird, but G1 just stands for greatest one.
Yeah.
So
he has the G1 briefcase.
Yeah, he had the G1 briefcase that guaranteed him a title shot at Wrestle Kingdom.
Basically,
so it's pretty much their Money in the Bank, but it's not that he could use it whenever he wants. Yeah. It guarantees he's going to main event. So it's like their Royal Rumble and Money in the Bank.
Nice.
But he doesn't have to climb a ladder. He just has to win a tournament, which is easier, or eliminate 30 guys or 29 guys. So he won that tournament. Guaranteed a main event spot.
Nice.
Kazuchika Okada was the champion. He had been the champion. He won the championship back from Naito, who had an amazing match just before with Tanahashi. And so going in, Okada is the leader of Chaos, which Shinsuke Nakamura was a member of.
Yes.
Goto, I believe, the new never openweight or current never openweight champion. Gato, several other, Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
And then Kenny Omega is the new leader of the Bullet Club.
Exactly.
With the Young Bucks, Bad Luck Fale, Tama Tonga, Tongaroa, and Bone Soldier, the notable Bone Soldier.
Yes.
Ex-Captain New Japan.
Yeah.
Which I think Bullet Club, probably the most popular thing in wrestling today.
Yep.
And, has the lineage in Bullet Club is you have AJ Styles and Finn Balor, formerly
as
Prince
ex-members.
Devitt, as ex-members. So it's exciting to put and those two have always been feuding for the last few years, I think, since Bullet Club was a thing. They've always been feuding with these guys. So it's cool to, still see that rivalry going. And especially in this way where I feel like they really chose the best of the best to represent the heel and the face, the Bullet Club versus Chaos, and supposedly if AJ had stuck around, that was supposed to be AJ, which who knows how great that match could have been. I'm sure it still would have been a 6-star. I really feel like it still would have been a 6-star match.
The match that AJ and Nakamura had at Wrestle Kingdom 10 was awesome to see,
too,
man. Yeah. It was, I had it as I think I had it at number 2 or number 3 as my top 5 matches of 2016, and you could just imagine AJ's place into Wrestle Kingdom 11, and still the same prestige of him being the leader of the Bullet Club would have went in, him winning G1. I mean, with those same set of circumstances, I think we would have had a 5+ and, you know, or 5 or either a 5+. I mean, because this 6-star thing is something we're not, we don't expect to see, you know. The thing I liked about this match, and I'm not really familiar with that of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I usually stick to some independent stuff and WWE more specifically. But with I have a clean slate looking into this match. And now with me knowing that Omega was the actual heel in this situation, it does explain the Young Bucks elite, the Young Bucks in the elite group as being essentially the valet to Kenny Omega during this match, even though they didn't come out together. The Young Bucks showed up beforehand and into the ring. But then it does explain why Kenny Omega comes with this whole Terminator gimmick and everything.
Yeah.
And does the Terminator gimmick play into the fact that he's the cleaner, or what does that nickname derive from?
No, I think that's he's been known as the cleaner for a few years. I think the Terminator thing, I'm not really sure where the origin or where it started from happened, but I remember I saw Kenny Omega at PWG in 2015.
Yeah.
He was at Battle of LA that year, and that was like the first real time I had seen him. I had seen his matches. I have seen highlights of him, but that was the first time seeing him in person. And he did the tope con hello, or the like swanton over the top rope,
and that's where he's like assuming the Terminator position.
He's assuming the Terminator position, and at PWG, because there's no railing or anything, all the fans get up and start the do.
Yeah,
and it was cool to see because I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh, that's cool. They're playing the Terminator theme, and then like he does the dive, and it looks great with all the fans doing it, and then I think the Terminator thing is just like more heightened in New Japan, because I think the fact that it's like an American movie, he's an American wrestler, a gaijin, at least like a North American because he's Canadian. But, it was funny because a lot of like people on Twitter were speculating that was like a dig at Triple H, because he did like a Terminator entrance at Mania a few years ago, which didn't come off as cool. But
no, it didn't, because when you try to add the endoskeleton look with the fact that you're a king, it kind of like no robot would like to have a beat.
Exactly.
Would even be in king attire.
The robot king.
The king of the robots.
Yeah.
So going into this match, I have a clean slate of what the feud is or anything. So I look at this match, and immediately into it, slow paced. They know, from what I've saw, that they know that they're going into a long match. The main event of wrestling,
50 minutes or even a little longer.
45 to 50 minutes.
50 minutes, yeah.
And
you don't want to start doing like a moonsault off the top rope 5 minutes in. You got to build up to that. It's like a good movie, where it starts off really slow and well paced, and you're still interested, but once it does build to that one big moment, like when it's actually pretty quick into the match when Omega hits the Orton style DDT off the railing. It's about like 5-6 minutes in, and you're like, oh man, like that. Yeah. And it looked great. And then a couple more minutes go by, and they're working each other. And then Kenny does the moonsault, and you're like, well, what else could they do? And then they pull out the table spots, and then is a brilliantly paced match.
I think so too, and like how you bring the example of it being a movie, I mean, you could take every major spot and kind of qualify it as, Act 1, Act 2, climax, and then Act 3. Because the build-up to the table spots goes very slowly. They bring it out a little bit. Kenny does the double foot stomp from the apron. From the apron down into Okada. And speaking of other spots, I mean, this strong style of New Japan, like, they go really, really hard. Like, the missile dropkick to the back of Okada's neck was
nuts.
No exaggeration. That was a literal missile dropkick with force to the back of Okada's neck.
Yeah.
Do you think, I don't know the philosophy of New Japan, but do you think that Okada would want it like that? Like, the aggression and everything?
Yeah, I think so, because I feel like this was maybe one of those matches where he had to prove he had, like, that ferociousness in him. Okay. Because a lot of his big matches leading up to this, like he main evented Wrestle Kingdom 2 years. This is his third main event actually, but the 2 years prior, both with Tanahashi, and those were all really technical and really just like another well-paced match, and But this one, it almost seemed like he had to really like prove that he could, when he needed to beat someone up, he could beat someone up. Whereas the other ones, it almost proved like he had to prove he could be a good wrestler.
Yes.
And that's secondary in this, where it all goes along with each other. But I don't know, there's something about the New Japan style that I think Okada doesn't do often, but like in instances like this, when he does it, he proves himself. Like he can work just as hard or just as vicious as like Shinsuke Nakamura, Katsuyori Shibata, Kota Ibushi when he was there, Goto, like Ishii. He could be as lethal as those guys,
See, with watching this match and actually knowing that it actually has a 6-star qualification now by Dave Meltzer, now I know what WWE is holding back as far as movesets, as far as the strong style of wrestling. I mean, comparing Shinsuke Nakamura's Wrestle Kingdom match to his best match in WWE, the one with Sami Zayn at TakeOver.
Yeah.
You could see that they limit him.
Oh yeah.
They limit him a lot, and it's for the sake of, watching the other wrestlers. You got to watch out for the health and the safety of other wrestlers, but they up the ante over there in New Japan, and it's good to see, because I could imagine in other territories, the older territories, they went just as hard.
Yeah, Yeah, the older style, older territories and wrestling of the olden days. It's almost not in the same category.
Yeah,
but like you could see that they worked to make it real, whereas WWE kind of loses that.
Yeah,
or doesn't have that appeal as much. But I mean, just the Friday I was watching Shibata versus Ishii from the previous Wrestle Kingdom.
Okay.
And my father was watching with me, and he turned around. He's like, "Oh, I think these guys are really hurting each other." And my dad's seen wrestling for years because we're all wrestling fans.
Yeah.
And when he watches WWE, he's like, "Oh, these guys are good performers." And I would love to have him watch Okada and Omega, because I wonder if he was like, "Oh, these guys are really good performers, but they're also killing each other."
Yeah, these guys are beating the shit out of each other, he would say, because there's so many spots to note. I mean, you had the moonsault that went over the guardrails. Yeah. You had the double foot stomp that I mentioned earlier onto the table, and then you also had these knee strikes towards the end from Omega.
Man, those were what's crazy is watching the match. I'm sure, like you, we've seen the match multiple times now.
Yeah.
Watching the match for the third time, and still even seeing those knee strikes, knowing the outcome, I'm still like, Omega's going to do it right there. Like after, I think it's like this second knee strike to the back of Okada's head, and then Okada just like falls to the ring and he pins him. And I'm like, oh, he's going to like win right there.
Yeah.
And then even the third time watching, Okada kicks out, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I forgot. This already happened.
There's even the I don't know, he does like some sort of knee driver to the back of Okada's neck, and I even had to tweet Omega, and I'm like, dude, like, what the fuck is Okada's neck made out of? I was like, did you go to Cyberdyne with him? And like, does he have a titanium alloy neck? Because seeing the post, like watching it and then thinking about it post match, I'm thinking, well, Okada either has like his cage is rattled. I mean, because knee strikes through a pad, like even having knee strikes done even through pad, it's still, I would assume it's still, there's a bunch of force going into it,
Much like they say the apron is the hardest part of the ring. Someone knees you no matter what, full force.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the hardest hits that you get. So, yeah, I don't know how he's feeling. I mean, I didn't see the day after show. They have a show after called New Year's Dash, where apparently like Okada came out for the match and he was all taped up.
Damn.
Like had his back taped up, like not in a neck brace, but like selling it,
exactly.
Which is another thing WWE doesn't do, because they have ladder matches and then the next night on Raw they're fine.
Yes,
which that's Vince McMahon's mentality of like, well, they're superheroes, they shouldn't be hurting. Like,
oh yeah, no, you're right into that whole part. It's like, in order for people to put these guys over, they need to see their vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
That's why I tell people, I'm like, that's why you should appreciate, and this is a side conversation, but you should appreciate James Ellsworth. He's the everyday man doing what we all want to do.
Exactly.
We assume that identity, and that's why he's got over, because we all can associate with him to a certain degree. Anyway, but with this match at Wrestle Kingdom, this has now elevated the table of what a good match is going to look like in the 2010s. We needed this match. With the 6-star match that Meltzer had in the early 90s, styles have changed. I mean, a lot of people take riskier spots, and even the match that you mentioned, the Seidel Ricochet and Ospreay match versus the Elite. The Elite. There's a whole different ball game now. You have to get the attention span of these people that, even at PWG, independent people like watching multiple sources of wrestling, and they know how to correctly scale these matches. So now WWE's in a position where, if we don't put out a great match almost all the time on the regular basis, we're going to lose some of the fan base. And my question to you is, Matt, is what kind of match can they put on at WrestleMania that can contend with this? Because we've both seen this multiple times. It's going to be hard to do, especially with the length of time that they had and the amount of great spots that Okada and Omega put on.
Definitely. The first thing that came to mind, because I've had this conversation with friends who watched it, and they're like, WWE, I think, needs to do something that's as, if not better, because I don't know if they can do better, but something equal, or at least can get them in the conversation. And my immediate choice was Cena, AJ Styles, because their SummerSlam match is great. It's a very different match, but it's a good match. It's a WWE match, but I mean, we were talking about this before we went live, about how the crowd was completely exhausted after that match. I kind of came up with this theory that I was like, well, it's not going to happen, but it'd be great if it worked out this way. Where Cena wrestled Baron Corbin on SmackDown, and I thought, what if they have Corbin go over? And then Daniel Bryan's like, hey, man, you lost. I feel like you don't deserve the title shot at the Rumble, but you can go in the Rumble. And then Baron wrestles AJ at the Rumble. Doesn't win, but then Cena wins the Rumble and challenges AJ, to say, no, I've always deserved this spot, and this is how I'm going to prove it. So
that'd be cool, because now with the last pay-per-view that we have after this is Fastlane.
There's going to be a Fastlane, which I believe is going to be, I'm sure they're going to make it a Raw pay-per-view. So now there's a lot to go with, and we know for sure that there's only a few select amount of people that can actually put on a match of either 5 to 6-star rating. And I mean, you think of Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, John Cena, Shinsuke Nakamura, Kevin Owens,
and a few of those people that we mentioned are still pending their WWE debut. So there's not a lot of time to get the mass of WWE to pay attention to this kind of match of this caliber. So you have to put yourself in a situation where we have to. It's at accelerated rate, is what I mean. So do you believe that there's a certain amount of people beyond the usual suspects that can actually put on a match that can?
I think though I doubt that it would happen, and I don't think it's possible, but the Kevin Owens Sami Zayn match at a Battleground, I think, or Payback it might have been. I'm not too sure. That match was incredible, and another match that I remember watching multiple times in a row, and even still just being this has got to be it. And then it doesn't end, and I'm like, I've seen this before. But just that's how good it is. I think with Finn Balor coming back, depending on who they pair him with, he could have a great match and do a good job and kind of deliver that type of performance. But it really just depends on who they pair him with, and put together who he can build a match like that with. Who on the roster, because he's a Raw superstar. No matter how you feel about the guy, Roman Reigns delivers. when you put him in those marquee matchups.
Yeah,
save for his match against Triple H
uh-huh.
at WrestleMania 32, but like everything else he's done, it's almost like the guy can go. He can like work really well.
He's had great matches with AJ Styles, even the Battleground match that he had with AJ Styles. And
Seth Rollins.
And even the one with Seth Rollins too. It's like
even Daniel Bryan. You know, a few years ago, Brock Lesnar, he was having great matches. Him and Dean were having great matches. So, the dude can do it. I remember watching Finn and Roman on the Raw, where Finn won the title shot.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a great match, you know? Like, they worked really well together. Roman with Jericho a few weeks ago in Raw, that was good.
The very final question that we have, and I know this one's going to take... the most of our time, but I have a few other Royal Rumble questions to get out of the way too. Who do you think is going to be winning the Royal Rumble? Because the select few that I have, I think either Taker, Goldberg, Lesnar, basically anyone that's in the front of the poster. I hate that tease that they have. But.
I feel like it can't be Lesnar or Goldberg because I think they're going to wrestle each other. At Mania and have the blow-off match. Get a big payday. Hopefully it's not the main event though.
You and I both hope that.
So I don't think it's them. They're kind of ruled out. I doubt that it'll be Taker because I don't think he can be a main event. He's been a main event guy before, but I don't think he can really be the main event that they need.
That responsibility has been... He doesn't carry that responsibility
he doesn't
anymore.
Carry that responsibility. He carries the responsibility of having a great entrance, having a solid match.
Yes.
Which I feel he hasn't had since Lesnar. But I it's almost like it's Undertaker. He has to be at WrestleMania. For how many more? Who knows? Hopefully this might be the last one.
Yes.
But Cena winning, I know would upset a lot of people, but it's almost like in the New Japan sense where Okada has been their chosen guy for a while.
Yes.
Like, you have to kind of expect him to be in a marquee matchup, and I'm most certain that he will. But, it's weird because, like, this is one of the first Rumbles where it's almost not positive who's going to win. I would like Finn Balor to come back, reclaim his spot as like the top babyface on Raw, and kind of get what was owed to him.
And then Finn Balor is capable of putting on the match that even WWE has been posted saying that they have watched this match and they know that. Well, we know we have to put on a match of this caliber, and Finn Balor's
Balor's capable. I think him and Kevin Owens could have a really solid match together in that spot. I think that more so relies on how they view Kevin Owens. He's been the champion since August, right? Since August. So and I feel like he's had a pretty decent run. He's only really defended against Roman and Seth for the most part. But I love Seth, but I don't feel like he's at the point where he should win the Rumble. I would have, like 6 months ago, I would have loved that, but now I'm kind of like,
and it's to the bad booking because his moveset is up there with Finn. It's up there with all the guys, but it's like his reputation now is like, well, he was a tweener for a long time, and now it's like, okay, now he's all babyface. So bad booking's done that to Seth, and that's the unfortunate part.
Another guy who isn't talked about so far, Miz, because of how great he's been this past year. Since the trade and since being on SmackDown. I think it'd be great to turn AJ face and keep him as the champ, but can he and Miz have a great match? They can probably have a good match. I don't know if they could have a great match, but they could have a good match. I know AJ is one of those guys who brings out the best in a lot of his opponents, even if they're not of that caliber, that he's used to. But I think him and Miz could work well together.
The only thing that stops me with thinking about the Miz is that you and I both know, and he's actually admitted it himself, and I know this isn't a work or anything, but he knows he plays it safe.
Definitely.
There's barely any top rope from him. There's barely but the thing is that he is a master of the promo and probably the best heel going on today in WWE.
Oh yeah, definitely.
On top of the fact that he knows ring psychology. You know?
Definitely.
But if you're going to pair someone up with AJ Styles, it either you have to. There's going to be a few matches within WrestleMania that need to. Okay, these are our 3 shots here that we have for a 5+ match.
It almost seems like it has to be Cena, Shinsuke, Samoa Joe, or somehow get Finn to switch.
Yes.
And like be on the SmackDown roster. And then after that, like the 5th is any wild card.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he had that great triple threat with Dolph and Baron.
Oh yeah.
A couple weeks ago. But are those guys at the level that they can main event and be believable, or at least be like well equipped enough? And I don't think so yet.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because Dolph Ziggler's been there for years and he's had a hell of a run.
Oh yeah.
Put on great matches, but at the same time, I think due to the booking, he's kind of been lackluster. And with his heel turn, his recent heel turn, it's almost like, oh, finally, thank God. But it's almost one of those where people are happy that he's a heel.
Exactly.
They were like, I was over babyface Dolph. Like, give me the heel Dolph. And he's not even full heel Dolph yet still. He's like, still kind of making the turn. So.
Yeah. It's not, that one's, his heel turn's not even fully done yet.
Yeah.
But speaking of what we have here, the matches that they have in for Royal Rumbles, Owens and Reigns. And
they just made Neville.
Oh yeah,
and
Neville
Swan,
and Rich
which
Swann.
I think is going to be great. I was at the WWE live event in LA a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and they had a great match. And it was one of those matches where the crowd was like not into it at first.
Yeah.
But because of how good it was, they got the crowd on their side.
Yeah.
And like the crowd was invested, which is awesome. And they're 2 guys who work well together. And then Charlotte Bayley.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if they have a tag match or anything scheduled yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
But
I'm wondering if they go with, because so far they kind of have like 3 Raw matches, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's going to be. I believe it's going to be 3 and 3.
Is it supposed to be 3 and 3?
It might.
And then the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's going to be very dense, man. But from what I have here is that.
Because then it's Cena and AJ. Mm-hmm. And then do they have another, like, is there an Intercontinental Championship match or no?
Not that I'm aware of yet.
Okay.
But let me see. So with Owens and Reigns, do you expect Owens to retain the title?
I really hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they're figuring out some way to get Reigns into Mania as the champ to pass it on to someone else as like a transitional champion. Because I think they might need to just pull the trigger on his heel turn this year.
Yeah.
So if they're thinking, well, let's put the belt on him, let's hope that Finn is healthy.
Yeah.
And they can have a great match.
Yeah.
Coronate Finn at Mania.
Yeah.
And then the next night have, Reigns go full on and just run roughshod on the Raw roster.
Do you expect any... do you expect the Balor Club faction to even form at WrestleMania? Because, I mean, this would be the perfect opportunity because then you have... All the stars are aligning for Finn Balor to culminate a faction there because he's like, well, I left injured, no one cared. And he could use that angle to actually put it on the best spotlight possible, which is WrestleMania.
It would be... I don't. If it does happen, I don't think it actually happens at Mania.
Yeah.
The Raw after Mania is almost like the second biggest show of the year that they have now. So maybe that's the time. Maybe, Finn wins, cuts that promo of like, no one cared about me.
Yeah.
And he can kind of come out with Gallows and Anderson, and they can just like interrupt every match and ruin everything, and do that type of thing. But I think if it were to happen, it would happen the night after Mania. But I feel like WWE, once he's healthy enough, if he is healthy enough now, I think they still want to have him be a babyface first.
True, because he didn't even get his dessert.
He didn't really get the babyface run, so I think that's going to have to wait a bit. I know that it's been people ask him all the time he's been doing a lot of those panels. Since he's been injured, and people ask him, and he's like, never say never, but I don't know that it's happening because I haven't been told anything. So
cool. I'm glad he's still like that, able to answer questions like that. It doesn't even affect his gimmick.
Yeah, exactly.
The Bayley and Charlotte match. Do you expect Bayley to be? Because I don't think they've built Bayley enough to have a good pop for her when she wins at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think they might use this as that moment to build it.
Yeah.
But I think leading up to now, she won't have she won't have her moment in the sun yet.
Yeah.
I think they're waiting for Mania to do that, which I guess is fine. But I was always hoping Charlotte could go undefeated and issue an open challenge to be answered by Asuka.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
And just Asuka just kills her. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would be great. But yeah, I think with Bayley, it's so weird because it seems like they want to keep Sasha in the picture.
Yeah.
Which is why they're doing like those tag matches and stuff. And Nia versus Sasha, and then Charlotte versus Bayley, and then the tag matches between the two.
Yeah.
So it almost seems like they're doing another triple threat at Mania. Yeah. But is Bayley going to come out on top, or is it?
Even if Charlotte, even if Bayley's not even in the title picture, I know a great match can happen between a heel Sasha Banks and a face Bayley.
Yeah, which is are they leading up to that for SummerSlam, or it almost seems like SummerSlam has become their second biggest show of the year, pay-per-view wise, but it almost seems like they have messed up the booking to where you're having these great matches at SummerSlam, but at Mania you're almost having
falling up short,
lackluster matches, because they really should have had what was the match at SummerSlam? Oh, they should have had AJ and Cena at WrestleMania. They should have had Sasha Charlotte 1-on-1 at Mania, you know. But I think at the time with the Women's Revolution and how popular all three were, they almost had to have the triple threat. But it seems like, I don't know, there's a lot of things about the women's division still, even though it is better than it once was.
Oh, yeah.
There's still a lot of holes in it. And
definitely.
It still seems like they're doing a pretty decent job booking it, but they're not doing their best yet.
Exactly.
You know?
With the last question I want to get to, we saw the match between Kenny Omega and Okada, and now we've been teased by John Cena on his Instagram, and it's funny to even say John Cena's Instagram because it's not even there's barely any resemblance of him being on it.
You would not know that it's him.
Exactly. Like, wait, is this a fake account? We have days after Wrestle Kingdom, there's a photo of Kenny Omega on his Instagram, and we're looking at it. Keep in mind, this is early in the morning. I'm passing through my Instagram, I'm like, holy shit! And then it rings of when AJ Styles was teased on his Instagram. Do you think? What are the odds about Kenny Omega joining WWE? Because in my perspective, I think money talks all the time, and with the payday that WWE can deliver versus what New Japan can actually max out with, because Kenny Omega is not even the main guy in New Japan, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you think WWE is going to pull the trigger on this?
Do I think WWE would? I think they will. I don't think now, because I feel like they're raw. I mean, it's crazy how people are like, well, WWE sucks now.
Yeah.
And it's like, you realize they have the best wrestlers in the world, save for maybe like 6 of them.
Yes.
You know, and that is Omega and Okada and Tanahashi and Ricochet and the Young Bucks.
They have monopolized.
You know,
the last 2 years they have monopolized all the top talent.
Everything, You know, there's probably like a dozen guys that, and I'm forgetting some of them, and not because I don't know, but it's just because I could go on for hours to be like, oh yeah, well they don't have this guy, but they still have the best guys in the world wrestling there. So I think WWE I wouldn't be surprised if they start reaching out soon, or at least starting putting out their feelers. Is that a good move for Omega? Right now, I don't think so.
Yes,
because I think his New Japan run isn't done yet. I think he needs to be champion. He needs to have a monster heel run. Not like a monster heel run like Braun Strowman, but like a monster heel run where they can just kind of, run the company. The Bullet Club can run the company, and there's a lot of really interesting storylines within. Like Adam Cole's a member of the Bullet Club, but does he really get along with Kenny Omega?
Yes.
But he's a guy who's people don't know what he's going to do in a few months. So I think Omega will eventually end up in WWE.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to happen in 2017.
Okay. So and I totally agree with you on that. And my perception, if I was in Kenny's shoes, I would think this. Well, I want to maximize maximize my stint in New Japan, and by maximizing it, you have the opportunity to then basically name your price when you're in WWE, because you're like, look how over I was in New Japan, because when you look at when AJ Styles left New Japan, he left on a note to where the Bullet Club ended up jumping him out essentially, he topped it off with losing the title to Shinsuke at Wrestle Kingdom. So you just got to leave a good impression for New Japan. There's plenty of factors, but I mean, basically, get your stock up before you can even pull the trigger on that.
And then, AJ was in that position where he didn't have to do the NXT run beforehand, which is crazy to think about, because look at all the guys who have done it and who are doing it. You have Finn, who had a great NXT run, and then you have Joe and Shinsuke, who have been the main event scene for the better part of a year almost, and then you have the newly signed Chris Hero, now known as Cassius Ohno, who, I mean, he doesn't need to be there, but I mean, it's great that he's going to be there, because he does need that reintroduction period. He needs to. I'm sure there's enough people who watch the main roster that know who he is.
The guys that you mentioned, added to the fact of Austin Aries, do not need to be there. Yeah. You're right, but it's like
you have Austin Aries, you have after Austin Aries, I think,
and Bobby Roode.
Another guy who, after those two, I think that's when you're starting to get into maybe after that, like, because Roderick Strong, who was one of the best, but he's in NXT, and I think it's good for him. I think they need to make him a big thing in NXT before he gets to WWE, because he was tearing it up at Ring of Honor. He's been tearing it up at PWG.
You were telling me about him a year and a half ago.
Yeah, the best run of all. I mean, I'll still to this day, and I love their champ, Zack Sabre Jr. now, but I'll say, the best year of PWG was Roderick Strong's champion. And that's because I got to see almost the whole thing. I think I missed one of his shows that he had. But,
nice.
So I think Omega needs to build up his stock and then get to the point where he can get signed and show up on Raw,
unannounced,
or have that Royal Rumble spot unannounced. Or, I mean, I love the reveal during Survivor Series matches where they do we have a surprise partner.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Omega.
That's good, man. I want to thank you for being a part of the podcast again. I do appreciate it a lot, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to get those key questions out of the way and basically take care of the other half of 2016-2017 with you, even the impending Royal Rumble WrestleMania. But I want to leave the floor to you right now to plug anything you want. This is an open forum, and after that we'll be closing out the show.
Thank you for having me. It's always fun to talk wrestling. I have a podcast I co-host with my buds Derek Murray and Michael Maxwell of the Jack Ball Nerds, called the International House of Podcasts.
Very good podcast.
Thank you very much. Which comes out monthly. You can check that out. We discuss topical, current events, hot topics, all that stuff. You can catch me doing stand-up. I'll be doing stand-up January 18th at the Cask and Hammer in La Habra, California. February 3rd at the Royal Falconer in Redlands, California. Both of those shows are free and both start at 8 p.m. And then the Pomona Revival Festival coming up January 21st. I'll be performing on Saturday night around 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Okay.
You can catch me that's all free.
I'll be sure to be over there and put you over, man.
Yeah, man. You got to put me. I'm trying to get over as much as possible. And then, I'll have more shows throughout the year.
Cool, man. Well, man,
and I'm also going to launch my own podcast a little later this year.
What?
Yeah.
Nice, man. I'm glad to hear
get into that.
Hear the rumblings of it.
Yeah.
What are you going to cover?
It's going to be about my favorite actor. Podcast dedicated to my favorite actor.
All right, I know who that guy is, though. We'll leave it at that, but I want to thank you for coming along, and I want to thank everyone for Pay-Per-View Wrestling Podcast for tuning in. You guys have a good night.